Welcome, welcome, everyone. Blessings to you. And thank you so much for stopping by again for another episode of 30 Minutes with. Always glad when you stop by to see who I have who will be joining us. And, on the day that we are recording this, wait, let me just stop. My name is, in case you're just stopping by, my name is Marsha Jones Washington. I am the founder of PA Women of Chaplaincy and Pastoral Care. That is an online ministry for women who are chaplains or in pastoral care or some form of related ministry, but it's how we network together and share information, encourage each other, all of that good stuff. And so this is an extension of that because I am usually interviewing a woman who is in some form of ministry, and today is no different. But I was about to say, on the day that this is being recorded, it is actually the Saturday after Veterans Day. And so while I would have loved to have had this guest before then, you know what, I feel like any time is a great time to hear about some of the stories of not only military men and women, but their families and the sacrifices that are made. And so this special guest today is going to share a little bit about her story and that of her sons. And so we are spending the next 30 minutes with Reverend Ida Carson. Reverend Carson, how are you today?
I am so elated and happy to be here. I came up here today and I was so excited about your segment on today that I just told the Lord, I said, have your way, Lord. And
Yeah.
so I am happy to be here with you today.
Yes, great. Yeah, yeah. So glad to have you. And you've already given me permission that I can call you Ida. And like I said, only
Yes,
because I'm
yes.
a first name basis type person. So Ida, I just thought if you could just start a little bit telling us what branch of the military did your son serve in, and how long was he, was he in the military?
Yes, I feel whenever we talk about the service of our young men and women, I get a little bit emotional. So just bear with me. I'm honored to share a little bit about my son. He served in the United States Army and he served in the Division of Infantry. And as he retired medically, he retired as a staff sergeant. And during his service, he actually prepared, went in the Army right after, I want to say that August before 9/11. So he was in basic training. And at that time, during that service, we had no idea that his particular platoon would be the first to go out after going through basic training. So here he is, brand new, and is now going right into war. And so I just, even having to go through that experience, I just really relied on my faith. I relied on the Lord giving me strength to be there when he needed to have a conversation. And because he was on the front lines and I did not have access to him, and it would be months that would pass and I didn't hear from him. And I just told the Lord, I said, Lord, it's going to take you to get me through this. And as he was serving, I want to say now it's about 6 months and I've not had a conversation with him. And I just said to God, I was on my knees and I said, Lord, now you've wrought so many miracles, but I need for you to just do one specific miracle for me. And Chaplain, I want to tell you that God wrought a miracle. He allowed me to be watching the TV. Glory. And as I was watching the TV, the Lord allowed me to get a glimpse of my son. And he
Mm.
was being interviewed by the news. However, he declined to talk because he was taking care of his troops. And so he didn't get a chance to talk, but they addressed him. And the Lord allowed me, out of all the thousands of troops out there, to see him, even though I hadn't had a conversation, but he allowed me to see him. And there again, he answered a prayer that made me really believe even more. Now, it's not that I didn't believe, but I believe even more. And so my son actually served, that was the first tour. He actually served 3 tours. And when he returned, during 2012, I want to say 2012, and at this time that he returned from, he retired out medically, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I shared with the children all, I have 5 children. They were all over the country to get home and have a conversation with him before he transitioned. And there is when my son came home, but it wasn't until the funeral that my son had a episode. And that's when I realized he needed help. The invisible and the visible wounds that was around him during that time, it did not show up until the trauma of seeing my husband laid to rest. And therefore, I realized the very next day, not even put my husband in the ground that Monday, Tuesday, I was at our local VA trying to get him help. From getting him help at our local VA, there were so many obstacles because now post 9/11 soldiers are coming home and needing these services. A lot of times they don't even know what they're combated with. So it was my endeavor was to make sure that he had the connections, that he had the resources that he needed to be able to live a fulfilled life after the military. Well, let me share this with you. It wasn't that easy. So I just asked the Lord in terms of giving me divine guidance on who to talk to and, what it is that I needed to get him the help that he needed. So he gave me to call the White House. And, I know everybody start from the bottom up, but the Lord didn't use me that way. He said, call the White House. And I had an opportunity to share my story with someone at the White House. I don't even remember who it was, but they connected me to our president at that time. I got a phone call back and they said, well, tell you what we're going to do, Miss Carson. This is from President Obama's office. And he said, we're going to send in the secretary of the VA to your local VA in Dayton, Ohio. And it was Secretary Bob McDonnell. And lo and behold, Secretary Bob McDonnell, before he came, he actually had a conversation with me and asked me what was it that I needed. And he assured me that not only would he come and implement some of these same issues that were going on with the local veterans, that he would allow me to meet with all the department heads of the VA. So here I am, straight in the office of the Secretary of the VA and all the department heads, and they heard my story and they implemented the programs that my son needed. Not only was my son red flagged, in other words, that when he came in, he wouldn't have no issues. I demanded that every veteran post 9/11 and all the other veterans to also be red flagged so that they were also VIPs, and they made that happen. So I thank the Lord. That particular meeting had me, it opened the door to other presidents that were running for office, and my story got out. They asked me if I could interview and just tell what I had to go through to get the services for my son, which entitled me to meet Senator Elizabeth Dole. And that's how I got involved with Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I was chosen to be Elizabeth Dole Fellow. There's 50 fellows at least that's represented for all of the states in the United States. And I was chosen in 2018 to represent Ohio. Since then, I still do the work, even in an alumni role for the foundation. But what it has done, Chaplain Washington, is that it has opened other doors, that it also allowed them to see the importance of faith, and why that is important to the caregivers taking care of their veterans. And because Senator Elizabeth Dole, I can always stand on that, is a bold woman of God. She embraced the fact of what I was doing with the foundation. And so now I represent the foundation as being the alumni chaplain for the foundation. So I'm very, very excited for that role, to share with caregivers all over the country who are going through taking care of their veteran and don't feel like there's any services available. And so for those who are listening under the sound of my voice, and you are a veteran caregiver, you care for your veteran, please reach out to the Elizabeth Dole Foundation.org. And there will be tons of resources to help you and your family, because I am so grateful for them to be able to supply the resources that has helped me and my community in the state of Ohio.
All right. And well, Ida, I love this story or this testimony really so much because you not only uh, share about really God's favor in your life in that situation, and also being able to hear from God and hear how He was directing you, because I'm sure not everybody is going to wake up and decide they're going to call the White House to get you know, to get the attention they need or to get a matter straightened out. And yet that's what the Lord had you to do. And you actually connected with someone who was willing to hear your story and then, just take it from there. So again, I mean, what a demonstration of God's favor in your life. But I also love your testimony because you could have just stopped with getting the services for your son and getting what he needed, but you said, no, I want to make sure other veterans are taken care of as well. And so that is just so wonderful, so wonderful. And now what I want to ask you too, just because I know we won't be able to hear everything, but I did want to hear, from my understanding, now it seems your son, he does live on his own and have, his own home, but, how is he doing in terms of day-to-day tasks? I mean, does he still actually need you to be a caregiver at this point?
I love that. You are so precious. And a lot of people say that to me. They was like, well, why does he need a caregiver? And it's very simple. And then I want to share with you that he's married. I was able to facilitate the vows. But the thing is, in terms of why it's still necessary for him to have a caregiver, he has good days and bad days. One of the things that's crucial is holidays. So Veteran Days is one of those days that's very crucial. And that's only because they deal with what's called survivor's remorse. So they question the Lord. Why did you allow me to be here? And I lost so many soldiers. I lost so many comrades. Why is that the case? So they deal with that. And holidays is one of the hardest times. Veterans Day, Memorial's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. These are the ones, 4th of July, because, you hear the firecrackers going off. So it takes them back to the platoon. So even though my son is able to, live on his own, I still do all his appointments. I still do every chore that I had been doing prior, because his wife is also a travel nurse. So even though, so that doesn't stop what he has going on, because his care is, it's times when she's not available to do that. But for me, I plan my schedule around him totally. So he, everything that I do, his appointments and all that is around him.
All right.
Mhm.
And yeah, because I'm thinking caring for him, it almost seems like kind of a full-time job, or at least a part-time job, making sure, certain things are in order for him. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
but again, it seems it is definitely a priority in your life.
Yes,
Would you say?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it definitely is. And so I just asked the Lord to, again, I'm relying on him. I have to ask him, Father, give me strength, make sure that I able to keep up with these appointments. Because one of the things with me that I find myself doing, I can be double booking. So I may put it on, and I think me and you have ran into that with my schedule. I'll put it in my book. However, if I don't put it in this phone, if it's not in this phone, it doesn't matter. So the phone is what actually keeps me lined up. So that's what I need assistance in. But even that, the Lord will give me tools that I can use to help me, stay on top of it. Because again, like I said, I do all his appointments, and the list goes on in terms of his medication and all of that. Not just do his appointments, like make the appointments, but I take him to his appointments and
Mm,
bring them back. So it's not just like when I say I'm making the appointments, no, because some of the procedures he has, that he can't drive. So those are things that, I have to do.
all right.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm,
But this is the way I look at it, is that's why God gives certain people certain, he puts certain tasks on you. He gives you certain things because you have to be able to be aligned in what he's doing. Because this is my son, I tell folk, you can call me a caregiver if you want to. He's my son, and I will never stop, no matter how old he is. And matter of fact, he'll be turning 46 this year, but I'll never stop, doing the care that it is that God has given me. We don't just turn off our mother role.
yes. Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
And the one thing I do want to touch upon is that,
Okay.
the other thing that one of the other things that's near and dear to you is lupus, and
Yes,
bringing
ma'am.
about awareness of the lupus and how it affects people. Now, how did you come to get involved with that? With that work?
So happy you brought that up. How I got involved with it is that I was diagnosed with it in 2009. My husband was diagnosed with cancer 2008. And he asked me to quit my job and come and take care of him, take him to his appointments, make sure he got to his chemo and all of that. Well, in doing that, Chaplain, I literally neglected myself, and I changed my appointments. I just put them to the shelf because my concentration was on him. But what people don't understand, stress will cause your body to react differently. And that's what happened to me. All of a sudden, I realized that I was exhausted. I couldn't even wash dishes and without having to be exhausted. Like I would do my plates and I would do my cups and then sit down, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I went to a doctor and I just like, oh, babe, I don't understand what's going on with me. And they did multiple tests and they still couldn't find out what it was. And then I actually went to a dermatologist. The dermatologist took one look at me. Now they have referred me, after being referred to a rheumatologist, that's who cares for the lupus. They also referred me to a oncologist because I had nodules all over my body. Well, the first thing when they see those nodules, they're going to think lymphoma. It falls in the line of lymphoma. So that's why they did the oncologist. But it was the dermatologist that looked at me and said, that's lupus. And lo and behold, it was lupus. Now, when you go in, if you're diagnosed or you're not feeling the best, I would recommend that your people who are listening to this to request an ANA test. Now, an ANA test is anti-nuclear antibodies test. They will frown upon giving you that test. Why? Because it's very expensive. And two, they don't want to run the panel. Laziness. But that's how the drug is diagnosed, through the ANA. So doing that test. So I tell everybody, when you first, no matter what you go in for, if you're not feeling like yourself, you're loss of energy, you're finding bruises on your body, any of that, you're just not this person you used to be, you're losing weight, you're gaining weight, ask them to do an ANA test on you. That will determine if you have the antibodies for lupus.
All right, all right. And I'm learning so much about lupus from you, because the only other time I remember encountering a woman with lupus, my husband and I used to do flea markets, and on one day it was like a very sunny day. And I think I may have complimented this woman on the hat. She was wearing pretty much a kind of a wide brim hat. And she said, "Oh, I have to wear this to protect myself from the sun because I have lupus." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I don't think I said any more about it, but I just then associated it with, okay, they have to stay out of the sun if they have this lupus. I had no idea, really all that was involved. And even you were sharing with me, we talked a little bit earlier, maybe last week or so, but you were mentioning some of the other types of illnesses or the ways that lupus can affect you in terms of other diseases and health issues. Do you want to mention some, about that? How?
Sure. And first, let me just tell people, just for those, I kind of had some little notes here, but I want to just tell people, when they hear the word lupus, what does that mean? Number one, it is a chronic autoimmune disease that ravages different parts of the body. And you hear that word ravages, that's exactly what it does. And I want you to look that word up, because then it will make sense to you if you're having these symptoms. So it's estimated, now this is estimated, and this has been about 3 years ago, that 1.5 million Americans, so that's at least 5 million people worldwide, have lupus. So just imagine that. And no two cases are alike. So, and here I'm going to list just some of the common symptoms. These are common symptoms: joint pain, skin rashes, overwhelming fatigue. Remember I shared with you that fatigue, how I felt. And what I'll do for you, Chaplain, I'll send you some literature just so you will have it after me and you get off the call. That way you can share it when people come to you and say, "Hey, what was that lady talking about?" These are just some things you can have on hand. And they also can go online to lupusfoundation.org. And they have all the free resources they can for that. But again, it's no two cases are alike. Some of the symptoms: joint pain, skin rashes, fatigue, fevers that last days or week. And most people with lupus, the first thing they'll say, "You don't look sick," but you don't know what's inside, because lupus is working from the inside. And what it does, it destroys the good cells that you have to fight with. And then I wanted to just mention just a few different types of lupus. I'm going to just talk on, because I know our time is winding up, but I want to give you the 4 major different types of lupus. And it's the systemic lupus erythematosus, better known as SLE, and that's the most common type. But listen to this, that's the most dangerous type, because that's the one that can attach itself to every organ. When your organs are compromised, that's when loss of life occurs. So I always tell people, I have lupus, lupus don't have me. And that's my motto with this disease. And that's the one I have currently, is the lupus SLE. Then there's the cutaneous lupus erythematosus. That's the form that attaches to the skin and may cause a different type of rash or lesions. You see people with the butterfly rash that's across their face. That's when you see anybody that looks like they have a butterfly across their face, a rash, that's 9 times out of 10 lupus. And then there's the drug-induced lupus erythematosus. That means that some of the medication that you're taking causes lupus, the interaction. So you have to be very careful with medicines that you're taking. And then the neonatal lupus. Neonatal lupus is lupus being passed from the mother to the baby. So the mother has it, and now she's getting ready to have birth, but she passed that disease to the baby. So that is a possibility, and not it doesn't always happen, but those are the 4 different aspects of lupus and how it affects individuals.
Wow. And my main thing is, I mean, you mentioned earlier about how someone can have lupus and, you look at them and think, well, you look fine, you look healthy. So I was going to ask you, because looking at you, you would not. And I was just going to say, is there any type of treatment, or what do you do to kind of stay, as healthy as possible?
Yes, ma'am. So there's no cure for the disease, but there is some treatment for it. So that's why I recommend anyone who's dealing with lupus to see your rheumatologist, and they will tell you the best options for you, because even though there's treatments for it, everybody can't take those medications. You may have an effect to it, so a side effect, so you can't take it. So I would recommend whoever is dealing with the disease to see a rheumatologist. Start off with your PCP, your primary care, and then they're going to recommend you with a rheumatologist. Your rheumatologist will recommend you to your other specialist doctors.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely seems like something that you must take seriously. And the other thing is, you had mentioned the Lupus Foundation would be a place to start for what I guess getting more information.
Yes,
about.
ma'am.
Okay.
Lupus Foundation of America.org.
All right. And I know for you, I believe I had saw where you take part in like a walk for lupus. And is that something that you just do in your area, or some of those walks held like in other cities and other parts of the country as well?
Yes, ma'am. So a lupus walk, we do that. Part of my job is that I am a prevention educator for UMaDOT of Dayton, and I do the lupus portion of that program. So I run that program. So we think of different ways that we can fundraise for the ladies in our group, which is the lupus walk. It brings awareness for those who are dealing with the disease, and it provides the funding from that, provides resources for the women in the group that will help for their medications, their co-pays for the doctor, transportation to and from the doctor's appointment. So those are when we raise those funds, we distribute it amongst our group.
I see. All right. Well, this has been so insightful, I mean, in both areas, in terms of with you being the caregiver for your son, and then also being an advocate for lupus awareness. And I just wanted to ask you, Ida, do you have any just final words of encouragement for either of those things, or both of those things?
Yes.
Any final words of encouragement that you'd like to share?
Yes, I want to share with those who are listening to us. First of all, doesn't matter what you are diagnosed with. I always say that, or whatever you're going through. I tell people all the time, you may be going through a storm, you may be going through a battle, but one thing that I would recommend to anyone is to, when you feel like it's overwhelming and you can't take no more, if you have your Bibles, I want you to remember Psalms 91. Just go to Psalms 91. And when you begin to just read that particular scripture, and he talks about dwelling in the secret place of the Most High, And he talks about that he is our Lord and our refuge. And when you just digest those words, this is the psalm that got me through my son being away. This is the psalm that I shared with him while he was on the battlefield. And when it talked about 10,000 may fall, hallelujah. When it talked about that, here it is: 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand. But he said, nothing shall happen, nothing shall come nigh thee. And I am so excited just from that particular one. And those are the words that I shared with him while he was fighting wars multiple times. And I would tell you, whatever you're going through, it may not be a war on a battlefield, but it may be something in your body or in your mind. All I would tell you is give Jesus a try. And if you don't like him, surely the devil will take you back, but give him a try.
Yes, yes. Love it, love it. Well, it has definitely been a joy having you on today. Again, you've just been a wealth of information, and so I just truly thank you. And for viewers out there, I'm sure that you have learned something from this interview as well. And please return. And something I've been forgetting to do, because I just like sitting here and talking with people and sharing information. But if you have enjoyed this episode, again, please like it, share it. Subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be coming back with other insightful guests, and I want you to be here. So until next time, please be well, be encouraged, and be here for another 30 minutes with. All right. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.